Old pal Don Lemon has resurfaced or is about to resurface. And I realize that the magnanimous move is to say, good for Don. He got canceled off of CNN and now he's reinventing himself on Twitter. Well, that's not what I say. I think he's disgusting. He hates America. He hates Republicans. And I'm not looking forward to his voice reemerging other than to mock it, which I 100% plan to do.
Want to hear a funny opinion? That Don Lemon doesn't do opinion.
I don't do opinion. And I know that the difference for me is I do point of view. So I'm giving my point of view as an American, as a black man who happens.
Greg Gutfeld and Megyn Kelly turned Don Lemon into the target of a brutal roast, tearing into his public image with sharp jokes and no holding back. From his exit at CNN to the struggles of his morning show, they picked apart his biggest moments with humor and precision. If you thought he'd already reached his lowest point, think again. This takedown goes even further, leaving no excuse untouched. Get ready for a roast so fierce, even Lemon's teleprompter would be nervous.
I also represent CNN. And so I must tell the truth. And if I don't, if my facts are wrong, then I have to clarify it and I have to come on television and I have to apologize and I say, I got that wrong.
That has never happened. So he's telling you what he bases his opinions off of. At the same time, he tells you he doesn't give opinions, just point of view.
That's the only silver lining in this one for me. He's going out on X. All right. It's like, oh, great. Tucker did it on X and Tucker and I got fired on the same day. So I'll go out on X. And Don Lemon comes out with a post on X saying, it starts as follows. I've heard you. And today I'm back. Bigger, bolder, freer. I've heard you. Like the masses are clamoring. Where's Don? What we need.
They've been crying out for Don.
Come back into my life, Don.
Take some off of Bill O'Reilly.
Right. So here's honestly, and like there are people welcoming Don back to the national conversation, and for those people and others, I just have a little reminder for you of who Don Lemon is and why we can't stand.
Greg Gutfeld didn't need any warm-up. The moment Don Lemon's name came up, he looked like someone who had just found the perfect setup for a great joke. For Gutfeld, Lemon wasn't really about politics anymore. He was more like a non-stop performance. It was like lighting a box of fireworks right in the middle of a circus, and everyone knew things were about to get wild.
He's shown us who he is. Believe him. This is not someone who I'm rooting for. I'm not saying he should never be allowed to speak again. I'm just saying I don't have to personally cheerlead it or think it's a good thing or recognize that this is like some sort of important voice in the conversation and yay for Elon for making it possible for him to come back. He's a prick and he f***ing hates Republicans.
If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. Gutfeld wasted no time joking that Don Lemon had a rare talent for always getting things wrong. He quipped that you could put Lemon in a room full of compasses and he'd still manage to head the wrong way. He said watching Lemon explain current events was like watching someone confidently teach algebra without really understanding it. No matter how serious the story, Lemon somehow turned every segment into something that felt more like a high school drama performance. Even Entertainment Weekly pointed out that his style often made serious news feel more like theater than journalism.
And neither has Lemon's so-called facts, otherwise known as unhinged babble puke.
You are the commander-in-chief, the president of the United States of America, the greatest country on earth. Act like it. The president of the United States is a fraud and a con man. The president of the United States is racist. A lot of us already knew that. If you voted for Trump, you voted for the person who the Klan supported. You voted for the person who Nazi.
Biden just did a presser on the crime wave, buddy. If you brought this guy within a mile of a lie detector, it would explode. I haven't seen that many bad opinions since the initial reviews of this hit show. Whatever happened to those people? So why is he so defensive about expressing opinions? It seems like a central part of his identity, his emotional assessment of stuff. Why can't he say, hi, I'm Don Lemon, and I have more opinions than a meth-addled cab driver? Instead, we have to laugh at his nightly denials. After me, he's the funniest late night show host on TV.
Greg dove into Don Lemon's CNN years like someone who couldn't wait to tell the joke. He said Don had a way of turning breaking news into something that sounded more like a dramatic stage performance than a news report. According to Gutfeld, Lemon didn't simply report the headlines. He delivered them with so much emotion that it felt like an actor giving a powerful speech over something as ordinary as a grocery list.
From election deniers to people who don't believe in facts, we don't have a shared reality, and now it's taken center stage to people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, an election denier, a conspiracy theorist, a QAnon sort of influencer or supporter presiding over the House of Representatives. It's a sad day for America when that happens, and it's a sad time for us when we have to deal with it.
Okay, so here's the context you need to understand what just happened there. Caitlin Collins is interviewing James Comer, head of oversight now, who's doing all the investigations. And in that interview, he mentioned something about the New York Post.
Greg also joked about Don Lemon's habit of saying he was always on the right side of history, even when that seemed to change with the latest trend online. He quipped that if history were a treadmill, Lemon would be running in place while telling everyone else they needed to move faster. That joke landed hard, and Gutfeld could barely keep a straight face as he laughed through the moment.
CNN's dimmest rube is back on the tube. Yeah, Don Lemon gets an HR warning, then returns to help CNN have a bad morning. Lady-hating numbskull Don Lemon is said to return to his low-rated morning show tomorrow after vacationing in Miami. That's him on the left. I'm over here. But he proves criminals always return to the scene of the crime.
He joked that putting Don Lemon on a morning show was like asking a mime to host a radio program. Greg questioned the idea that Lemon's biggest strength was being relatable first thing in the morning, saying it was like waking up to a lecture instead of an alarm clock. Then he turned to Lemon's on-air meltdowns, saying he could make a simple weather update sound like a major national crisis. Even good news, Greg claimed, somehow came with a lecture attached. Next came the jokes about Lemon's style. Gutfeld teased the turtlenecks, the glasses, and the confident grin that always looked like he'd just won an argument no one else remembered having. He also poked fun at Lemon's fact-checking, saying his version of the facts was about as reliable as a house built from cardboard in a storm. Then he wrapped it up by talking about Lemon's exit from CNN, joking that it felt less like someone leaving and more like the network finally hitting the reset button.
Conspiracy theorist, a QAnon sort of influencer or supporter presiding over the House of Representatives. It's a sad day for America when that happens, and it's a sad time for us when we have to deal with it.
Okay, so here's the context you need to understand what just happened there. Caitlin Collins is interviewing James Comer, head of oversight now, who's doing all the investigations. And in that interview, he mentioned something about the New York Post, cited something, referred to the New York Post. And then they wrapped. And when they tossed back to the studio, Don Lemon was chastising her in that clip for not challenging him.
Meanwhile, on another stage, Megyn Kelly took a different approach. Her criticism of Don Lemon wasn't loud or dramatic. It was calm, sharp, and carefully delivered. Instead of raising her voice, she focused on what she saw as his constant sense of moral superiority and the confidence he brought to every segment. Megyn argued that Lemon often came across as talking down to people instead of trying to persuade them. She joked that watching him moderate a panel was like watching a referee who trips a player and then hands them a penalty. She also mocked his habit of turning every news story into a lesson about how everyone else needed to change. According to Kelly, Lemon seemed to believe that personal growth began with agreeing with him. She even joked that if he were a therapist, he'd spend the whole session talking and then charge you for interrupting. She wrapped it up by taking aim at his reaction to criticism, saying Lemon seemed uncomfortable whenever someone challenged his views. She compared him to a GPS that keeps rerouting, only to lead everyone straight into a dead end filled with confidence and smugness.
Nikki Haley isn't in her prime, sorry. When a woman is considered to be in her prime in her 20s and 30s and maybe 40s.
Prime for what?
In their
I think
prime
you need to qualify. Are you talking about prime for like childbearing, or are you talking about prime for being president?
What the facts are. Google it.
Google it! Wow, he's the only guy alive who can make Andrew Dice Clay seem like an enlightened feminist. As part of his return...
Megyn also joked about the failure of Lemon's morning show. She said it was hard to imagine the meeting where someone decided he was the perfect person to wake America up. According to her, starting the day with Don Lemon was like getting a lecture before your first cup of coffee. She also mocked the way Lemon reacted to criticism, saying he treated every disagreement like a major crisis. When she talked about his exit from CNN, she joked that he seemed to expect a huge public reaction, but was instead met with little more than a few headlines. Although Gutfeld and Kelly had very different styles, they shared the same point. Both argued that Don Lemon often focused more on performance than substance. Gutfeld closed with one last joke, saying Lemon was like a former anchor who never really left the studio, and somewhere a teleprompter was probably still waiting for him to finish his next speech.
Not going much better. According to the New York Post in an exclusive report, Don Lemon screamed at his co-host, Caitlin Collins. According to two sources with knowledge, says the New York Post, Lemon approached Collins following the show's Thursday, December 8th broadcast and unloaded on her in front of staffers as he accused her of interrupting him on air. Quote, Don screamed at Caitlin, who was visibly upset, and ran out of the studio.
Kelly wrapped up by saying Don Lemon's legacy wasn't just about controversy. In her view, it showed what happens when confidence starts to outweigh credibility. She argued he had the talent to do more, but often chose attention over substance. She even joked that if Lemon launched his own news platform, he'd have complete control and no one else to blame. Greg Gutfeld came back with a few final jokes, comparing Lemon's logic to a GPS that keeps going in circles. He said Lemon could spend minutes explaining a simple topic without ever making a clear point. Greg also teased his habit of using complicated words for basic ideas, and joked that he had a way of making every story about himself. He ended by saying that in Don Lemon's world, even the biggest headlines somehow revolved around his own perspective.
Yeah, we have to also accept that he's kind of an inspiration for an idiot. Like, if he's made it this far as an idiot. That's not true. Gay, black, liberal. He was bulletproof. Yep. He was bulletproof. Well, that's how he got so far. He still is. Yeah, he still is. He's still got a job. If you said something like that, I would fire you in a second. But I can't because you don't work for me.
Megyn Kelly returned for one final round, focusing on what she described as Don Lemon's habit of treating criticism like personal persecution. She joked that whenever he faced pushback, he acted as if he were the real victim. The two hosts imagined Lemon planning a dramatic comeback, complete with a documentary about being misunderstood, filled with emotional speeches and plenty of self-reflection. It was all part of the joke that he would never stop telling his side of the story. As the roast came to a close, both landed on the same point. Gutfeld seemed amazed by Lemon's confidence, even when they argued he was completely off target. Kelly questioned how someone with so many opportunities ended up becoming such a polarizing public figure. They ended by joking that somewhere, Don Lemon was probably rehearsing his next speech in front of a mirror, convinced the world simply didn't understand him. For them, this roast wasn't the ending, it was only an intermission.
CNN's dimmest rube is back on the tube. Yeah, Don Lemon gets an HR warning, then returns to help CNN have a bad morning. Lady-hating numbskull Don Lemon is said to return to his low-rated morning show tomorrow after vacationing in Miami. That's him on the left. I'm over here. But he proves criminals always return to the scene of the crime.
As long as there are cameras and an internet connection, Gutfeld joked that Don Lemon would always find a way back into the spotlight. And whenever he returned, he said he and Megyn Kelly would be ready with another round of sharp jokes. Kelly took aim at Lemon's dramatic style, saying he often made the news feel more like a personal performance than a straightforward report. She joked that every segment seemed designed to keep the spotlight on him. In the end, both landed on the same point. They argued that Lemon's biggest problem wasn't just bias or arrogance, but believing too much of his own reputation. According to them, he became so caught up in his own image that when things fell apart, he struggled to see where it all went wrong.